All right, I'm feeling it. I want to do top 5 free movies for YouTube this month because I don't know if you looked. It's pretty stacked.
I had trouble narrowing it down to 5, and
So did
it
I.
is usually not that. So yeah, it was a nice dilemma to run into.
And I guess for edit's sake, I'm going to try and make my entries short and sweet because every time I get too excited and I just start rambling on about films.
Okay, we'll try it. Brevity is not either of our strong suits.
I know, that's what's
Do
going to
it.
be a battle. But it's like such a good month for free movies. I can't not. This is it. Hit me with a number 5.
Number 5.
All right, my number 5 pick is a well, I can't even say classic.
Just go with it. Roll on.
I always want to call everything a classic, but not everything Matthew McConaughey does is a classic. It definitely came out a long time ago, but it stars Matthew McConaughey and Bill Paxton, and it's called Frailty. It's kind of actually when Matthew McConaughey was young and hungry, he was doing all those, like rom-coms and stuff. This was more of a character role. It's a murder mystery, and he's kind of unraveling the story, telling you the whole time. We actually have a Did You Know about it, but I definitely recommend people to check this out for free. I was so shocked when I saw it.
There's nothing to talk about. It's over. Whatever happens, you have to take me to the Rose Garden. You promised.
All right, hit me with that number 5.
What would you say about a movie that stars Steve Carell, Christian Bale, Ryan Gosling, Brad Pitt, and Marisa Tomei in it? And Margot Robbie.
Oh,
right?
well, I was going to say, yeah, I already know what it is. Yeah, it's a great film.
Yes. So it is The Big Short, which is, like kind of a biographical comedy drama. It's based on the 2007 financial crisis, right? I'm in banking, but it is a great film to show different like financial instruments that are used and things that the common person is just not familiar with. So if you're kind of curious for a movie that is absolutely filled with stars, has an interesting subject matter, is funny but also interesting, you should watch this movie.
See, this is what's so rough is because we're supposed to be short about this, and I would love
No,
to
I
talk
can't-
about
I
this
can't be
movie
short. That
so
was all
much.
I
I
could
know. It's such a good movie.
We live in an era of fraud in America, not just in banking, but in government, education, religion, food, even baseball.
Number 4.
All right, my number 4 was actually The Big Short, but I was gonna, yeah, I know, because it's such a good movie, and it's also a great topic. I feel like everybody should be educated on it. But I raise you with a double feature, adding Margin Call, that people should watch The Big Short and Margin Call because they're both free this month, and it's literally both perspectives. Margin Call is like the inside of the Lehman Brothers when everything was going to crap and how they were trying to sell off all their stuff. So you get to see on like the evil perspective, and then you get to have fun with The Big Short.
We are selling to willing buyers at the current fair market price so that we may survive.
All right, it's your turn. 4.
I went with documentary slot, The Image Revolution, which is a documentary about Image Comics. And so hardcore comic fans, they know this story already, especially if you were like a 90s comic fan. But if you're unfamiliar, watch this. You'll get an appreciation of some very influential 90s comic book artists, and you'll see the huge rise of these creators and the start of Image and the downfall in the later 90s and what really kind of destroyed a lot of the comic industry. There's a ton of them out there, and I suggest anybody who is interested in comics or comic history, check this movie out.
This man, Jim Lee, illustrated the highest selling comic book of all time, X-Men #1. And Jim, I can't even...
I think we sold about 8.2 million copies. That was the latest count.
8.2 million copies of one comic book.
Number 3.
Oh, wait. I'm sorry. Hold on. I need a second.
Just kidding.
That was good. Well, here, flip it up. You go first. That'll decide me.
I went with one of the Jim Carrey movies that we're seeing the numerous ones on there, and it is a comedy, Me, Myself, and Irene, which happens to be one of my favorite Jim Carrey movies out there. It's some of the humor is pretty much for the early 2000s or whenever this movie was made, but there's scenes that happen that are still like I joke about to this day with my own family. Anyways, there's so many classic hits. I love this movie. I still laugh at it. I hope it holds up for everybody else, but it's still something I laugh at and think about my childhood and laughing at it.
Just because I rock doesn't mean I'm made of stone.
All right, for my number 3, it was a classic. That one actually I can say, but this was a reboot, and it's called Clash of the Titans. Originally loved the original, and then they remade this at the height of, I think it was right off the back of Avatar and all that. And I like Sam Worthington. I can't say the movie is like 5 stars, but I have a fun time watching it. But when you watch it, you're also just going to be like, why doesn't some of this make sense? But you just gotta shut your brain off to that. You gotta have fun. You get to see Liam Neeson as Zeus. You get to see Voldemort as Hades. You go on a big adventure. It's pretty nice.
Like, go into it with the expectation that it's like a fun action movie. If you go into it with that mindset, it's enjoyable.
Yeah, you gotta shut your brain off.
Don't look for anything deeper than that.
Release the Kraken!
Number 2.
All right, for my number 2, it was another battle because there's just so many movies, man. This video could honestly do with like an honorable mention at the end, or at least just like where I throw up like a page of just these movies are also available. I'm going with another double feature, and it's both Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock movies. These have popped up before, also in another past hidden episode. I'm bringing them back, but they both popped up for free again. You get to watch the first one and the second one. I probably put more of my eggs in the basket of the second one. The setup's already there. I prefer Moriarty as a villain, but the first one's fun, I guess. You get more of the camaraderie between Jude Law and Robert Downey Jr. I'd say that's probably the best part of the films. But I'm also just a Sherlock Holmes fanboy, so yeah, let's move on. Number 2.
Or can we just crack on?
I went with a science fiction movie that I've talked to you about. It is a movie starring Pedro Pascal called Prospect. It's kind of a smaller movie that he was done before he really hit his peaks of like Game of Thrones. But it's got a very interesting dynamic with, a young girl and her dad. Things happen when they go to a planet. Pedro Pascal actually starts off as the villain and kind of progresses into maybe not the villain by the end of it. But just seeing how he interacts with the main character, which is a teenage girl, and I apologize that I forget the actress's name. They have a very interesting dynamic, and seeing them grow throughout everything going on and the perils they face was really well done. And it's nice that it's like short, it's to the point, it doesn't go on forever. Like I definitely enjoyed it, and it just doesn't overstay its welcome.
You're trying to trick me.
Let me help you. I can harvest. I can offer protection.
Numero uno.
This man's movies have become a cliche, but I feel like he actually tried with this one, especially with the cast. And it's called Pain and Gain. And it's the first time this movie is like free on YouTube. He's bringing it all in. It's basically a regular Michael Bay film. Maybe explosions aren't going off every 5 seconds, but he's got your crazy angles and your high saturation. It's got The Rock, Mark Wahlberg. It's actually filled with people I normally don't like watching, but they're playing actual characters, and I think they're actually trying for once. It's even got Anthony Mackie in there being a funny character. But it's basically kind of like a heist movie, but it goes all wrong. It's based on a true story. Definitely watch it and get educated. It's also very funny. That's why I had to put it as my number 1. I was like, I'm cheating myself if I don't put this as number 1. I love this film.
Say it like you want to hunt it, skin it, and mount his head on your wall.
I'm a door!
What?
I'm a door! I'm a door!
All right, we've been down to the wire, and I'm really curious now what your number 1 is. But I guess it could be anything, because you always surprise me.
I went with a classic 80s action film called Commando.
Oh my god. Yes.
Now, this is a movie that I think everybody's seen, so I'm not surprised it's on the free list, but it's top 5 Schwarzenegger movies. The plot is essentially John Matrix. His daughter is kidnapped, and it's a revenge thing and using ridiculous weapons to get his daughter back. And I think the scene where he paints like black on his face is like the precursor to like Mel Gibson's Braveheart, where they're putting blue on their face, right? It's just amazing. And like films from the 80s, Commando is definitely on that list of like anybody's gonna mention it.
No, that's definitely a classic, man. I love Commando. I actually did scroll past it. I was like, is he gonna put that on the list?
Oh, definitely.
There you go.
Remember, Sally, when I promised to kill you last?
That's right, Major. You did.
I lied.
What'd you do with Sully?
I let him go.